So this is my last live lecture. This is week 7, guys. We are almost done. I've graded all your reaction papers, all your videos that have been turned in. I wanted to let you know there's an opportunity to get 10 extra credit points if you choose to fill out the course eval. What you can do is you could fill that out and then email me that you completed it, and you will get the 10 extra credit points. I hope that you gained a lot from having the group experience with the role play. It seems from reading a lot of your papers, a lot of you learned that you really enjoyed group, which is really encouraging. And that's why we have these exercises for you to have these opportunities to see if that's something that you would enjoy. And you're not going to know unless you try, even though I know it's not a real setting or is very always accurate to having like real people that are approaching wanting to do this because they have real issues. This gives you a chance to see what it's like to lead. Although only 45 minutes, for a lot of you, that 45 minutes felt very quick. So I'm glad for some of you that this will be maybe opening a door into a whole new realm of therapy that you're excited to offer to people around you. So we're going to be talking a little bit about groups in school settings and in open settings. Now, groups in school settings happen quite often. There's a lot of different kinds of groups. There is groups that have to do with like prevention, social skills, sometimes a grief, depending on some stuff that's happened at the school. It is a way for students to learn and learn from one another, no different than what you guys experienced in your adult groups. This is the same with children, and it's very effective. It's a very effective way of kids learning from one another, to build support for one another, to see that they're not alone. Very useful. Some of you might be pursuing maybe a PPS credential as well as a PCC or a LMFT, which is great. However, with the PPS, usually people end up working in schools, and 100% you'll get opportunities to do group work. It's a way, again, school-based counseling looks a little different than therapy outside of a school. One, it's FERPA, not HIPAA, so there's a lot of differences. Parent permission, parent involvement looks different in a school setting versus an outside of school setting. So you have to get resources together to make sure everything is legal and ethical and appropriate to get kids to participate. But again, this is a way to work with a wider range of children versus maybe not having the time to see people individually. And maybe not everybody needs individual therapy, and they would benefit more from a group situation. And so this is a way to, again, address behavior. It's a way to address emotions and maybe even teach some skills. Very useful. You'll see it a lot. Making sure that we have the goals clearly stated, clearly articulate the benefits for the kids. You'll need to convey that too to the parent, so the parent understands why their child is joining the group. Develop attendance policy, provide maybe some information, whether it be a one-on-one setting or bringing all the parents together who are participating. Children are participating together. Probably one-on-one is a little bit easier, but as a way to convey to parents what the goal is. A lot of times teachers are on board for these groups because it helps them out and maybe alleviate some stressors in the classroom, which for any teacher is always nice. Some of you may understand this quite well as you may be teachers. Guidelines for group work with children and adolescents. Do not tell children that you can keep everything confidential. Remember, limits of confidentiality is the same for grown-ups and children. Now what we have to do as far as reporting may look a little different, but it is the same. Harm to self, others, elder abuse, or child abuse, we have to report. We have to make sure we have parental permission slips and make sure that confidentiality is still important, even though these people are all children. We need to make sure that they're keeping things within the group and not going out and sharing it to their classmates, because now in this kind of setting, they may really know their peers, and that could be really devastating. And so confidentiality is really important to establish in the group setting, especially on a campus with kids that all probably know each other. Making sure, you might need to do screening to make sure the right kids are in the right groups, so that you want to make sure, though, like we're screening well because of the nature of kids being so closely tied together in a school setting. You just want to make sure it's a good fit for everyone that's in the group. So making sure that that you have that good fit is going to be important for cohesiveness and trust and the development and education that's going to happen in the group. Remembering being flexible, remaining open, all these kinds of things are important when leading a group, especially in a school setting, because you're dealing with children. Probably the length of time is going to be shorter due to the fact it's in a school setting, and we try to keep kids in class versus not in class, and so that might detour how long the group is. And so making sure you're really structured on what the group is going to look like, what you're going to cover, what you're going to discuss is going to be important, because we want the most out of this group experience. So play therapy can be done in group work as well. Art can be done in group work as well. You can implement a lot of these things. Even some team building type exercises can be done in group as well. So play in art and different activities can make kids feel really engaged, buy in, feel safe. And so that's not just being immature, or there's purpose behind it. Sometimes even with play therapy, parents will be like, is this really doing anything? It is. Kids are different than grown-ups. They can't just sit and talk for 50 minutes. That's hard for some grown-ups. So being mindful of that is really important in group work and in group therapy in general with children. Trying to make sure that you're understanding and you're conveying of the themes and what the plan is for the group is important. Understanding like how things might be conveyed at school, how things are been taken at home could be two different things. So peers are a good sense of support, and understanding that this could be a way for them to feel really supported by other peers in their school. Some kids really have a hard time connecting with other children, and so this could be a way for them to connect with other kids their age, their peer support. Really great opportunities. I really do believe in group, especially in school settings, just because of the great work that can be done and the amount of growth, intentionality that can be developed in them learning from each other. Sometimes parents will say something to a child, and another adult or another peer could say the same thing, and it's all of a sudden like, wow, that was so insightful. And the parent's like, I just said the same exact thing. It's just the way it is. I don't know why it is. It's just the way it is. And so as long as the good information is getting to the children, we want that experience, And so just being mindful of that this is opportunities for kids and for grownups to really grow, mature, kids to really grow, mature, learn things from one another, learn things from a safe adult. All great resources. Maybe have some commonality with other peers at their school. So groups in community settings. So again, with women, there's some advantages in a community setting, discovering their personal strengths, working on interpersonal relationships, eliminating any sort of patriarchal oppression, practicing and modeling new behaviors in a safe environment, finding their voice. For men, assists men in clarifying their role, provides a context where men can bring all of their feelings into the open, provide a place for connecting with other men. Most men's groups contain a psychoeducational component. Remember, women are face-to-face, men are side-by-side, and so if with how we connect usually. So how the groups then are formulated and things might have to take that into consideration. There's groups on domestic violence, usually court-mandated groups, and this is a way to work through some of the stuff that comes up with DV, trying to figure out the solution so domestic violence doesn't continue, cycles can be broken, children, they can have access to their kids again, potentially if kids have been involved. These are the kinds of groups that help with potentially, there's co-parenting groups for divorce situations. There obviously is groups for people who have been some sort of offender, substance abuse groups. There's a lot of groups out there for substance abuse, AA, NA. There are faith-based groups, things like Overcomers, Celebrate Recovery is a huge group. Different types of group. I think one I know of is called the James Club, where people really focus on working through their addiction and really realizing that they cannot rely on themselves. And it's a lot of deep, good work, but which is really a lot of surrendering to their addiction and things of that nature. So, like, not to the addiction, but to the part that they're not in control of it. and regaining a sense of self again. These groups are open in the community. There's probably a group that can be found every day of the week, 24 hours a day, now even on the internet. So they're very accessible, free of charge, no cost, run by fellow other group members. And there is a very structured system to them. And people can go to AA meetings for their whole life, which is really cool that they have that kind of support. The great thing about these kinds of substance abuse groups is you could have someone showing up, it's their first day. They're like, I'm here and I don't know how long I'm going to be able to be here, but I'm here. And then you have people who are like, I've been you before and I'm 10 years away from where you were. And I know how hard it can be, but I'm here. And they establish some level of support with mentorship and things of that nature. Super awesome. A lot of times in recovery type groups, there's preparation for relapse, things of that nature. Sounds strange, but it's something that happens. And so people need to be aware of it. And even with that, there's great support even for family members of addicts to find support and coping skills on some of their behavior that participates with the addict's behavior and how everyone's tried to function over the years, which usually isn't super healthy. And so breaking those changes groups. There's groups for codependency. There is groups now for aging adults, and just that adjustment of life, which is a huge adjustment and causes a lot of stress for people. There's groups for anxiety. There's groups for poverty. There's groups for, single parents, groups for grief, all kinds of levels of dependency and addiction. I have, Overeaters Anonymous. I have, that's a group. I have a client that's in FA, Food Addicts Anonymous. I have clients who have done OA, or not, I'm sorry, CODA, which is codependency. I've had people, obviously, AA, NA. Sometimes NA people go to AA. So there's a lot of sexual addiction groups, a lot of different things out there to help. There can even be groups for parents who have children that suffer from different kinds of issues like autism, things of that nature. A lot of different opportunities and a ton of opportunities that are faith-based and non-faith-based. And so you can find these at churches, at church Christian organizations. There's so many different things now on the internet, which is great. So people have access to do something and maybe they can't leave their home, but they could do it from their home, which is super cool. As you saw for many of you, there was a really great ability to connect, even though things were virtual. We have to connect differently, but you're still able to. And so that you might still do a lot of virtual work. I would say since COVID, probably 80% of my caseload has remained at home. It's just the way things have changed. And so that might be you too. And so we can still connect even if it's virtually. These are the different types of work that could be done with an older adults group. I might talk about the past, body awareness, grief work. There might be some stuff with like orientation as far as like cognition, things of that nature. Just even trying to wrap their heads around maybe a diagnosis that was received. There's groups for people who are survivor of cancer, all kinds of things that are out there, which really give people a lot of resources to get the help they need, to not feel alone and hopefully grow in a way that they couldn't have done if they were alone. So I hope all this information is helpful to you. I really am thankful for this class and how well this has gone. Hang in there. You're almost done with the capstone assignment. You are going to do one part of the paper is you're going to do an outline of a group. You pick the subject, but you're going to do an outline for 8 to 10 sessions of a group. So what you'll do each week, as each week goes on, remember the group progresses. So you're thinking of each phase, right? The initial phase, transitional phase, right? You're going to go through all the phases until it's final. So 8 to 10 sessions, you're writing this outline. That's part of the paper. It doesn't need to be detail for detail. You just think of like introductions, limits of confidentiality, icebreaker. Like you're just kind of saying what you're going to do if you were to be leading the group and have an outline of what each week will look like. I hope that's helpful. Again, this is the last live lecture. Week 8, there won't be a live lecture because I know you'll be working on all of your capstones. Have a great week.